I'm Tanya Webb, and I am part of the people team, and I specifically lead our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, also known as DE&I. But I also have the pleasure of running our L&D, which is our learning and development organization. When people ask me, oh, how long have you been with Puppet? And I tell them that I've been here almost 6 years, literally 2 months shy of 6 years, someone gives me either a facial expression or just a, wow, that's amazing. And yes, I've been here for almost 6 years. And so people often ask me, well, wow, what keeps you here? Why are you still here, especially in tech? And there are a few things that I like to share. At the very top of my list is the people. Lots of smart people at Puppet, and it's been that way basically ever since I've been here. So I've had the opportunity to work with people just around the company. People here are really focused around our product and wanting to improve all the time, help improve our products and our customers. And the other thing is about themselves. So the professional development piece and constantly wanting to find out how they can progress in their careers or perhaps do something different. And I'm actually a prime example of that. So when I started 6 years ago, I was doing something completely different. And I was leading and recruiting and really helping to grow our company. And now 6 years later, I am, and a few different positions later, I'm actually doing something different. And that leads me to the other aspect of why I am here, and that's the work that I'm doing now around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm super passionate about it, and it's something that is core to Puppet's values. And I always like to tell the story of how when I came to Puppet as a recruiter, I was expecting to come to the table and have hiring managers, push back when I would talk about how can we get a more diverse pipeline. And that was not at all the case. I would come to the table ready to meet with the hiring managers, and they would say, how can we get a more diverse pipeline? And so I was just completely blown away by that. One of the things that drew me to Puppet is we are, obviously our roots are in open source, and community was hugely important, and that has not changed at all either. And so very much ingrained in who we are. And so when I think about diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, particularly inclusion efforts, I think about how we have an amazing Portland tech community, and there are companies that are doing amazing things within the confines of their walls. And so we thought that by coming together and collaborating as a community around inclusion efforts, we would be able to drive positive direction, or we would be able to move the needle faster. And so what we ended up doing is coming together and creating and building a community of Ally Skills workshop facilitators. And so rather than just having Puppet's 5 that we have, we now have a TechTown community of 20 Ally Skills facilitators, where the plan is to always have an Ally Skills workshop available for TechTown employees to attend. And so that's where we are now. We have actually taken about 20 folks from various TechTown companies through the workshop, which is Valerie Aurora's Ally Skills Workshop Train the Trainer class. And so now we have a schedule that we're planning out for the next year that will be available to TechTown employees throughout Portland. So that's the phase that we're in now. The next phase, as you can imagine, is bigger picture, right? And so what we're thinking and what we're hoping is that we would be able to take this footprint within the TechTown community and then offer it up to other industries and say, hey, if you have a community of retail companies, or if you have a community of manufacturing companies, here's the model that you can then take within your industry and then push that out so that, again, you're helping to build and foster communities of inclusion within your specific industries. The Ally Skills Workshop basically is something that Puppet was exposed to a few years ago through Valerie Aurora and Frameshift Consulting, and it was through the ADA initiative. And basically her intention when she started that way back when was to be able to provide and help men develop the skills to be able to advocate and support women, particularly in the tech industry. And so she has since expanded that to basically provide workshops for people to develop skills who are folks that could advocate and support for targets of oppression in general. So it doesn't have to be women, it could be for people of color, so on and so forth. And so the Ally Skills Workshop, basically, the premise is we are teaching you skills to be able to support and advocate for people who are targets of oppression. So a simpler way of putting that is, say you are someone that witnesses someone who is a target of biased behavior. And it doesn't have to be something so drastic around, racism or what have you. It could be something, very, something that you ordinarily wouldn't expect to be something that could be offensive or affect someone. And so the skills, the workshop is very scenarios based, where you literally go through and talk through real world examples and scenarios of, someone being a target of bias or oppression. And so when you're in this workshop, you're interacting with people, you're talking with folks, and you're, talking about how you would approach it and really developing the skills to be able to approach it without doing harm to anybody else. And that's one of the key things that this workshop emphasizes is you're doing it in a respectful manner, and you're doing it in a way that does not do harm to other marginalized groups of people. And so it's really something that we have taken up here. Again, we had 5 facilitators here at Puppet, and we hold our workshops regularly. So we're pretty proud of it, and it's one of our core offerings at Puppet. Well, first of all, Puppet is a small company. When you think about or hear about other companies that have a diversity, equity, and inclusion function. And so that's pretty unusual for a company of our size to have a team that, our role is specifically to focus around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's pretty amazing in and of itself. When I took on the role, we definitely had a strategy or a specific direction that we were headed in. And I want to say that while it hasn't shifted a great deal from that, we have put the focus a lot on our learning and development. And that's the other area that I get to be a part of is, when you think about DE&I strategies and efforts, it's really around behavior, right? It's really around how you inspire people to engage in positive behavior. And that goes back to, that can be anything from awareness, right? How do you get folks to, number one, be interested in their own self-awareness in terms of how they might react to something that's, publicized in social media or something that's happening in the news around racism or what have you. So anything around awareness to then moving down to, well, how would you then take that and incorporate that into your communication? Which then leads to how would you then incorporate that into how you interact with your team. And so we've taken it from that approach of how could we provide opportunities for people to learn, and take classes and practice communicating in a safe environment. And that's where we really rope in our learning and development as part of our DE&I strategy. And it wasn't as huge a focus when we initially started back then as it is now. So from that perspective, it has shifted definitely around, hey, how can we help our employees, think about the behaviors, because behavior is contagious, right? And so if you have people that are exhibiting positive, genuine behavior, then that's just going to filter out through the rest of the company, and it's going to filter out through the community. One of the things that we really thought about when we were developing this program, this Ally Skills program that's being offered to the community is, there are other companies that are global. And so the thought was, yes, we would develop this footprint again here locally in the Portland area. And the intent was for us to be able to take that footprint and expand it well beyond the Portland area and well beyond the tech industry. So the goal is to be able to have that this program be easily implemented within different industries, but also for companies to implement this globally to their employees. And so we actually, as part of the pilot within the program, we had a remote version for distributed teams. And so we actually piloted that at Puppet, and it was pretty successful. In fact, we got rave reviews around, hey, I'd love to have this more available. And so the next pilot will be around other companies offering it to their remote employees, so that it is a global effort and not just Portland specific or US centric or what have you. So the plan is definitely to be able to roll this out globally. We're super excited again to be launching this, and there is going to be more to come in terms of the successes of now that we have a group of facilitators and being able to share out just those successes. And so if you want to learn more about it, I'd be happy to chat with you. Feel free to reach out to me directly.